All right, guys, we're going to rock and roll here shortly. Scott Morris in the house, guys. Ross Mortgage's Scott Morris. I think last week I mistakenly dubbed him Scott Mortgage Morris, and I think the nickname is just awesome.
I like it. It sticks.
It sticks, dude. It's got the alliteration. It's memorable. The dude closes deals, man, and he moves mountains for clients. And he does it in the way where people feel confident about the process and feel good about the process. Keith Smith in the house. We already have questions coming in from friend of the program, Paul Hendricks. Paul, one of the best squash players I've seen. Dude is a baller, and he's got a good one for Scott Mortgage Morris today. Judah Wittkower's our director. Keith loves the nickname. I can tell. I know. Every time it said, he loves it. It's so memorable, isn't it, Keith?
It's amazing. It's amazing what we do on this thing, right? On, what was it, Monday? We came up with a whole new.
That's going to be big time.
Plan that, my God, I was literally woke up in the middle of the night thinking about it.
I mean, that plan basically would turn Real Talk into a real estate historian.
Yeah, well,
think about that.
Well,
a real estate historian.
Are you saying the old dude needs to do the historical work?
No, I'm saying it just would be amazing.
I missed it. What happened Monday?
So we had.
What do you mean? You don't sit around and watch our shows all the time,
I watch
Scott?
some of each show.
What's wrong with you?
We had and we'll start here, guys, in a matter of moments. Paul Hendricks will rock and roll here in a matter of moments, a guy who's talented in finance. We had a great Batman and Robin where we just started talking about nostalgia and stories of Charlottesville. And then that led us to an idea about kind of documenting the digital history of landmarks in the community. And as we document like those landmarks, like the A&N building that's now Passiflora, formerly Commonwealth Sky Bar.
Yeah, the old Army Navy surplus sportswear store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like the evolutions of these pieces of real estate.
Well, so what's the building at the corner, like the new enormous thing where the ice park was?
Oh,
Code.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Code building is where downtown athletics
Right,
was.
downtown athletics
Before the
Dean
ice
family.
Yeah.
Before
It was the ice park.
it was the ice park.
There used to be like the original like OG free parking corner.
Right. And then the Deans moved the store to 29, either Albemarle or Seminole Square.
Seminole.
Is it Seminole?
I think so.
So you actually win because I've only been here for 35 years. You've been here a little longer than that.
Yeah.
And he's been patronizing, perhaps we could say just gallivanting around Charlottesville since he was...
Is that what we're calling it?
How old?
I was gallivanting
Yeah.
since probably 14 probably.
Gallivanting around Charlottesville.
Hold the time out.
Yeah.
I was on the back end of some of those.
Yeah.
Was it really gallivanting? Is that what we're going to call it?
I think we'll call that.
Yeah. That's kind.
Scott and I have a lot in common. Oh, man, it's going to be a good show, guys, today. Give it a like and a share. If you want to give Scott Moore some props, put it in the feed. We already have questions from Paul Hendricks that we will get to today on Real Talk, presented by Ross Mortgage and powered by Yes Realty Partners, guys, here on the I Love Seville Network. Judah, we can rock and roll. We're going to LinkedIn. We're going to Twitter. We're going to Facebook. We're going to YouTube. We're going everywhere. You're a good man, Judah. We can start when you're ready.
Couldn't do it without you, Judah.
Guys, good Wednesday morning. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness. Today's show presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Mortgage Morris. Just an all-around A-plus dude that knows Charlottesville through his gallivanting escapades from childhood into adulthood. Scott is of Ross Mortgage, A-plus people, and questions have already come in. We know it's a good show when questions start in the 8 o'clock hour for our hosts. Keith Smith, one of the principals of Yes Realty Partners. Find them online, yesrealtypartners.com. A-plus people, Yona, certainly. Keith, we love as well. We love Yona.
It's funny. I was at a meeting the other day that I was described as Yona's husband.
And you smiled and loved it.
Smiled at, like it was a business meeting. Yeah, that's Yona's husband, right?
So, and in Culpeper, I get Dr. Eppard's husband. So, yeah.
Really?
That's great.
Yeah, 100%.
That means you both outkicked your coverage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yona is watching. She gives the heart emoji on the program, or hearts the feed over here. We love you, Yona. We love you dearly and sincerely. All right, gentlemen. It is Wednesday, February 16th. So some of the macro data suggest nationally, which I'm sure you saw, I mean, you follow this closely than I do, that applications are trending a bit lower.
Yeah. So are we talking about the
mortgage application?
MCAI?
Yeah.
All right. So yes, that was true for conventional, but for government product, they were down just under 1% for conventional product, and up just over 0.5% for government product. So almost a wash. And that's probably price points. I'm sure that California plays a big part in that. They, like everyone else, are going through there's no inventory, and there's no inventory in in an entire state where their average price point is almost $1 million.
So I'll read the question verbatim and then get out of your guys' way. You guys are the pros. It's from Paul Hendricks. We love you, Paul. He says, I was looking at my notes and noticed MCAI standards for conforming mortgages tightened in the report that was published yesterday. We now have higher mortgage costs and tighter mortgage availability. How do you think this translates to the local market? He's in the local market.
So local market, I mean, in the tightening, depending on what's happening on the back end with the government's algorithms as far as what tightening actually means. I mean, these are super fractional. So someone that on the lower end of the credit spectrum may not be getting good findings and may be forced into a government product or into a lower price point. That's probably the biggest impact it's going to have anywhere, because all these moves are marginal, if that makes sense.
So I'm actually just reading a HouseWire notification that came through. Fannie Mae net worth doubles to $47 billion, and that's all single family stuff. So the back to the point about, like, just smiling. So that means, but the government stuff actually increased.
Yeah.
Right, and the private stuff kind of maybe is balanced out a little bit. But I actually, before the show, and I think you texted your assistant, how's your week-over-week applications looking?
We are down maybe less than 5% on average.
Got it. And so that's kind of within norm.
Within norm. I mean, that could change in the course of a couple days.
So who asked the question? Excuse me.
Paul Hendricks.
So
which I believe Paul's watching. Paul, if you're watching right now, jump in the mix here and offer some perspective. This guy is a very smart, well-read dude, Paul Hendricks.
And the question was, what is his applications looking like, right?
Paul is in finance. He's a money manager.
Got it.
He's a money manager.
Paul is managing all of that paper net worth that everyone just exploded in value over.
You're talking about the $47 billion?
Yeah, I'm talking about to have the net worth doubling to $47 billion. I still call that's a paper tiger. That's just it's kind of like that's going to affect everyone over time. The government's going to want its piece, and that's going to affect assessments, which So if you think about it in real value, if you've got without going in and grabbing this money through a cash out refinance, your property value goes up 30-40%, and then Uncle Sam says, well, I want my piece. So then all of a sudden your assessment goes up 10 to 20%. And then your taxes due, and you're already in a higher inflation environment.
I
mean, this is, I think that's awesome, and it gives people some access to some cash should they need it. But the big picture is, I don't think it's that good of a thing. People
who watched the show yesterday watched my head explode live as I had an affordable housing deal falling apart over tax increases because the new buyer couldn't afford it any longer. So we saved it, thank God. But it impacts people. My takeaway from this, and I haven't read the article. It literally came in yesterday afternoon. I haven't a chance to read it. It seems to be focusing a lot on single family, and if the market is moving, right? The people are buying homes, and so the fact that if you're in agreement of paper money, not paper money, the bottom line is things are trading. Homes are trading back and forth on that end of it, which I think leads a little bit into, you asked me a question yesterday, if you don't have anybody else on the feed.
No, keep going. We do, but I want to finish your thought.
Yeah, so asked me a question yesterday about activity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Inventory. What do we look like? It looks like we've got a spread of every piece of the area
right in front of me.
Right in front of us.
Yeah. So look, I just took a quick snapshot on what was available in the car footprint for the last 7 days. So we're starting to tick up a little bit, and you'll start seeing that on Facebook. A shout out to Maggie Gunnels, if you can tag her on that. They've got a couple of coming soons that they put out there, and I've got in front of me everything from Stanton, Buckingham, Waynesboro, Augusta, Louisa, Nelson, Greene, Fulvana, Charlottesville, and Albemarle County, and I was looking at numbers this morning, and I'm starting to see, these are only actives, I'm starting to see in each jurisdiction 4, 6, 8 coming soons, which is kind of what we've been predicting, that this spring market was kind of pick up a little bit.
Yeah, we had the drag of January with all the snow. Power being out, that definitely held people back. There's no doubt about it.
So Stanton has 30 active on that end of it, and 4 coming soons, which really wasn't there a while ago. Buckingham has 8, which is really interesting, and they're ranging from 120,000 active to 839, which I have not looked into these units, but they're ranging from 1,000 to 4,000 square feet. That's a big number for Buckingham County.
That's a huge number for Buckingham County.
$800,000.
The increase in assessments and potential tax rate increases are tailwinds for Buckingham County and momentum drivers for Buckingham County. Maybe the last truly affordable, especially for people that are in the first-time home market, pocket of real estate is Buckingham County.
So I'm going to contradict that a little bit. So
what do you got, Louisa?
No. I'm looking at 8 in Buckingham County, and only 3 that are available on the market right now between 120 and 249. So there's 120, 219, and after that it jumps to 425. 425.
What's the 420? The 425 though is going to come with a pretty large chunk of land though.
Hold on a second.
425 in Buckingham, I guarantee you that's 10 plus acres associated with that property.
So of course the piece of paper that I printed does not have the acreage on it.
Let me see if I can find that on the MLS.
So
you've got to think though that.
Yeah.
Could be. I will tell you. I did print the square footage of it. That's 2,600 square feet.
Let's see if I can find that. Scott Morris, jump in here anywhere you want to go. And then I'll get these macro data questions that are coming in from some of these finance guys.
Cool.
So I've seen a lot, just private groups, that sort of thing. How do you feel about inventory? And I go back to the fact that we are not in the same situation a lot of people across the country are. We are not seeing, an entire neighborhood purchased by BlackRock. So while we have less than what we've had in the past, 33% less according to CAR, I believe, from a year ago. I think as we get into spring and people become more comfortable with the world that we live in, you're going to see more stuff coming on market and making the regular human decisions that they are prone to make, which is I'd like something bigger, I'd like something newer, I'm having another baby, like all the things that drive those types of decisions.
Well said. Buckingham County is at 1771 Dixie Hill Road, 425K ask. Asking about?
That's exactly right.
1771 Dixie Hill Road, drum roll please, 22.9 acres associated with that piece of property. It's the land.
It's been on the market for 50 days.
Motivated sellers, significant price drop, 22 acres. That's like a Scott Morris farm out in
That is.
Scott Morris.
Go get yourself some chickens. Let's go.
Scott Morris. It looks like our homie Scott Morris got a fresh cut as well. He's looking.
So the girl that cuts my hair, she moved salons, and I was like, it was getting bad. We were getting to the point where something had to be done. So I texted her, and she's like, just get in here, and I'll make sure it happens.
I will. And looking, she did a good job. And looking on the MLS over here, Q Smith, 219K and 249K in Buckingham. I mean, you can't find these houses in perhaps any other county.
What's the acreages with those? You know,
The 219K, 166 Arvon Road.
That's it.
You're looking at 2.82.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds
It's
about
fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds
For
about
219,000, that's a first-time home waiting to happen. Then there's a 249K,
right. And I bet you that's a couple acres.
2231 Constitution Route, 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I mean, if this is in Lake Monticello, this is trading with the 3
With a three,
plus
with a
Yeah.
three
in front of it. This number, and 1 acre plus.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to drive a little bit more.
Yeah,
So-
so the 120 to the 249 to your point is probably the couple acre typical traditional 2 acre subdivision, that kind of thing, unless it's got central water and sewer, which Buckingham doesn't have a lot of that.
Right.
So it's well
And
accepted.
also, you got to be worried about broadband.
You definitely need to be worried about broadband, but I think the takeaway from this, even if we're saying the affordability, right, the housing affordability, not affordable housing, but the housing affordability is in Buckingham. For all intents and purposes, you only have 3 in Buckingham that's under 250.
What do we expect is going to happen over the next couple of years in Buckingham County? Maybe a little anthropology assessment here.
There's already been some builders who've gone in and purchased some land, busted into some lots, and are building some we'll call affordable housing, more affordable than certainly what you'd see.
So it's not an affordable housing thing. It's the
Housing that's more affordable.
well, the land is cheaper, the development costs are cheaper, right? The construction costs are cheaper, therefore the home is more cost effective on that end of it. But yeah, I mean, I was surprised to see that. I expected to see a bigger number. Now, in fairness, our car doesn't capture all of Buckingham, so this is Buckingham that is close to Scottsville in that area. You know, it doesn't cover the other end. I think that's in a different...
There's like a whole national park out there, so you can get into some super rural Buckingham area, which is probably even more affordable.
Have you gallivanted in Buckingham?
I grew up in Columbia, which is like the far corner of Virginia where it intersects with
We're still calling it gallivanting?
Columbia. Yeah, I like the kind terminology.
Yeah.
So gallivanting Scott Mortgage.
That's right.
I love it.
That's right.
I love it. So this has come in, and this is some macro data that people want your take on. The average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage with conforming loan balances increased to 4.05%. He follows by saying the average size of a new mortgage just set a new record as home prices continue to climb. Please ask Scott what his takes on new mortgages setting new records with home prices continuing to climb. 4+ interest rates, 4.05 to be exact, and the average purchase loan size was a record $453,000. His take on any of that stuff?
I mean, that's kind of been the theme for what we've been talking about for the last few months. We're continuing to see an appreciation in value, and we knew mortgage rates were going up. And did we think that that was going to slow anything down? And it's been like a hard stop, no. We've also, on a national level, started to see some wage increases as well, which will help support this. But, you know, fundamentally, this comes back to sticky inflation, because ultimately wage increases driven up are going to increase the cost of everything around you. Rents are also going to go up, which goes back to why making the purchase makes so much sense. As you know, this needs to filter in more to government payroll, and I don't mean people who are getting paid as contractors in the vicinity of D.C., Fairfax, and Loudoun County. I mean small municipalities paying police firefighters more, and that filtering into what the university does for nurses, et cetera. Those are the people who really need to, cost-effective housing in our social neighborhoods, and how do we make that work is probably the biggest thing.
I was stopped, I'll get out of your way on this, I was stopped by a lieutenant on the downtown mall, police force. All good.
Stormy smile.
It's all good. Listens to the shows.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
said, we a lot of us do, and thank you for backing the boys in blue.
Okay.
And said, please highlight for the community that the people that are serving and protecting the community cannot afford to live in the community that they're protecting and serving. And as we do not have take-home vehicles like we once did because of rollbacks on budget, we're now having to drive there in our own personal vehicles, which is eating into the little money that we're making.
So you asked me why I work so hard for affordable housing or housing affordability. That's exactly the reason I do. So that people that serve and protect us, and teachers and nurses, have a place to live a little closer to their workplace. And the thing that blew up yesterday was actually in the service related. I won't tell specific, but this individual was in that line of work. So I'm honored to be able to make that work and close on that end of it. But as a follow-up on that, as a follow-up of our yesterday's show, I actually had a phone call off of what Scott just said from somebody who watched the show who wanted to say, well, maybe I won't buy now, I'll rent because of inflation. And I had to explain to this individual, what do you think is going to happen to your rent? Because inflation is going to impact the landlord, and he's just, or she is going to pass that along. And so, you know, you're going to be paying for inflation.
The interest rate on those rental payments is 100%.
That's exactly right.
Well said. Very well said. Finish your thought there, Keith, and then I got follow-up.
No, he just blew my mind with the 100% because I've never thought about it that way. But that's 100% on that end of it. But I just wanted to, just to echo off of what the police officer said to you, and what you said is, owning is in my opinion, the best path to hedge against inflation. There's some additional costs like taxes, which we talked about yesterday, and insurances will change it. But at the end of the day, ownership, even at 4%, is a lot better than getting a 7% increase next year in rent.
Yeah. Zach Morris giving us some props. No, not the guy from Saved by the Bell, but it appears to be kin to Scott Morris over here.
Not kin. I mean, this is like the whole Fluvanna, Green, Scottsville. Like there's the Morrises or Shiflets. There's a lot of them. There are a
lot of Morrises. Zachary Morris says, "What up? What up? What up?" On Scott's page right now. And if you have questions to put on air, please do. Bill says this: back in the day, it was cruising the Biff. Biff Burger was located where the KFC is at Emmett and Angus Road. He's talking about gallivanting Scott Mortgage Morris there.
Yeah.
And he's reminiscing about gallivanting in his own right, Bill. So more questions coming in on the macro data. Obviously, this came out this morning. Applications to refinance a home loan are now less than half the volume of a year ago.
Sure. I mean, we talked about that was coming. I mean, people who could have, for the most part, did take advantage of that refinance, the super low rates. Now that we're discussing a 4% 30-year fixed mortgage, as we go back up, they're not going to refi typically into a higher rate unless they want to get into some of this equity that exists in the property to go solve whatever financial problems or they may need the money for in their life. Now, at the same time, you can't look at the refinancing strictly, especially if you need the cash, from a rate perspective. You look at it from a cash flow perspective. If you've got existing unsecured debt that is just burning you up from an 18% interest rate on credit cards, and you can go in, grab the cash and refinance at 4%, pay those things off and stay out of trouble with it, that's probably a pretty effective move on your part.
And if you've been used to paying this amount of money, carve off a little bit of that, pay it to your principal.
Absolutely.
Right? And you're actually only paying yourself instead of paying the credit card company.
100%.
This question from Gretchen: what do you guys think Buckingham will turn into? Maybe another county in the area that it's going to become where this county currently is today? That's a good question.
I think maybe more like what Fluvanna was 40 years ago. And by that I mean even if you're going to go out that far, it needs some sort of sustainable commerce to drive that. So the closer you are to Scottsville, the more of that you'll see. But is there a grocery store? There's a Great Value, I think, in Scottsville still. It used to be an IGA, so depending on how far back you want to go on that. But yeah, I think that's a key piece into supporting the more rural areas.
Yeah, you grew up in rural. I've been living in rural for 35 years. I think Buckingham will take a little bit of the relief or a little bit of the affordable buyer or the housing affordability. I just don't see the volume going out that way. I think there's just a bunch it's the drive out there. They don't have, if they can solve the internet issue, if they can pull up.
Be huge.
Yeah, if they
Like
can.
Jesse Rutherford in Nelson County.
Yeah, exactly right. As Nelson County has done, that'll change it because then you can start getting some of the work at home or some of the Zoom town kind of stuff. But if they're on dial, some parts of that county's on dial-up, literally dial-up. So I think some infrastructure investment needs to get made. And I can talk a little bit about Albemarle and Green and all that kind of great stuff. But as far as Buckingham County goes, I think if you get that going, you'll start seeing some more.
She follows up for Keith and keep the reel going, and we'll get Scott and Keith's take on this. She follows up by saying, but it could be forced to evolve quickly because we can't afford to buy in the counties you guys are talking, specifically Albemarle, Charlottesville, and Fluvanna any longer.
Yeah, so, she's spot on. I mean, that's what's going to go out there. But literally, if we define 250 and under as affordable, just to pick a number, there's only 3 available, right? That's the pool, as we said, is pretty deep. So, it's I'll have to dig a little bit more into it. This is a pretty quick synopsis from this morning on it, but it's a big jump. It's a jump from, and it's acreage, as you said, but it's a jump from 249 to 425. That's a couple of hundred, almost a couple of $100,000 jump. That's a big jump in that end of it.
Your thoughts on this, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, as far as it being forced to happen, I mean, that's going to rely more on building material cost, labor costs for builders, what it's going to take to get any number of units divided and approved through Buckingham County to keep that price point at that number that low. I don't know. That's will I think to be determined. I think that's a bigger comment than.
So I'm going to start digging through some of this data here to jump in a little bit more as we're doing this live. But what is your average sales price these days? Do you know what your average mortgage amount?
$330,000.
It's around $330,000, right? So I'm going to pick 250 as a number, right? As in a housing affordability. So actually in Waynesboro, the city of Waynesboro. I haven't dig into it, but you got 11 available that's under 250.
What's the drive from Charlottesville to Waynesboro time-wise, and Charlottesville to Buckingham? Are they synonymous?
They're pretty close, depending on where, though. Like 29 North is probably different than closer to the, let's say, use the university.
Yeah, university's a good call.
You're probably 30, 35 minutes both ways would be my...
But it's a different drive.
Yeah, I mean...
And that's important.
Well, that's true because Route 20 becomes an absolute, like 53. 53 to Charlottesville and 20 to Charlottesville can get super congested, crazy
Very
town.
dicey.
Yeah, depending on weather and,
Same with the interstate.
There's a guy who grew up in real traffic. There's a difference of hopping on 64, assuming you don't have an accident, because that can happen in either case, and just driving straight at 60, 70 miles an hour versus...
I've seen a lot of people that drive 53 and Route 20. I'm not saying that, 60 miles an hour is completely off limits there.
You were behind me, will you?
Zach Morris says 30 minutes to Waynesboro, depending on traffic.
Yeah, I would agree, yeah. I can get from Lake Monticello to Fishersville in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
In 45 minutes.
So you're more bullish on Waynesboro, though?
Well, it's just from a travel perspective. It's a little easy to get there.
And there's already more rooftops.
And there's more inventory.
And
there's more amenities.
Yeah.
And more retail and restaurants.
So Augusta has 15 under that price point.
Now, Augusta, you get out into Churchville and those areas, you can get into the super rural there as well. So you've got access to some amenities and you're close to a lot of things, and you're probably another 30 minutes from Harrisonburg at that point. If you've got kids going to JMU, that sort of thing. But definitely you can get into the super rural areas out there as well. So
just to do some quick looking at all these spreadsheets I have, Augusta, Waynesboro, and Stanton. I just picked 300. I'm changing the numbers around a little bit just to kind of see what's available. There's 40 of homes or 40 something available under 300,000 in that area versus 3 in Buckingham.
What do you make of that?
I think that's where the market is going. I think that drive makes a huge difference. Waynesboro has internet. It has services, right? It has easy connectivity. There's actually a jaunt. We learned that when Jaunt was here. There's a connector bus that
Before COVID, the university had a ride share with Buckingham.
Correct, and I think if I remember our conversation, I think there is some ride share going on over there, but there's an actual connector bus now going from the
That's
other side of the mountain to do that, because so much of the university
was living in Buckingham.
Excuse me, sir.
A lot of the university, not a lot, but a fair chunk of university employees were actually living in Buckingham County. So that's why they did the rideshare. Now it evaporated when COVID hit because of the unsafe nature of rideshare. So maybe that comes back on market. God, we're not going to go down that way. Bad thing to consider about Waynesboro is the mountain, very hazardous during the wintertime and heavy fall. It can be very dicey at times. That's from Zach Morse right there. I like the contributions from you, sir. The feed is blowing up right here. This question about Keith's client from yesterday who lost closing due to higher assessments. Can you bring that up with Scott? And also we're getting this question that's coming in from Christopher. Does your mortgage expert expect refis to drop and be less of his business with rates going up? First, why don't we go with the first topic? And the topic yesterday was he had a potential buyer almost lose a deal because of the assessment increase. And I guess we could go down the road of the tax rate increase that's on the near horizon.
Yeah, so first-time home buyer, just in your thinking, typically is razor thin, right? Regardless if it's an affordable housing land trust buyer or a typical first-time home buyer. And what had happened was the new tax assessment came out in Albemarle County, and it increased their total number by $800.
By $800 annually or
annually?
Okay.
Annually, and it kicked them out of the program that we were in. So
so what is that? $65 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
67. That's still a lot.
Depending on, because you got to, I mean, whatever the income is, if
that's
they were already,
that's a great track. Why did that kick out?
Because if they were already, so this is not the same as the tightening of credit standards due to the MCAI, but if we're going to talk about how the government's running the algorithms for Fannie and Freddie, one, it may have been something as simple as that $65 pushed them from 56.99 to 57x or 58x total debt to income, and to where it's just in a range that will not qualify. And that's the most common way for something like that to affect a process.
So the way we fixed that is ultimately we were able to communicate a little bit with the county and help with the assessment, but we needed to reduce the price by $10,000.
That's one thing. The first thing I'm going to do on my end is call my insurance person and go, "Hey, got one for you. How can we reduce their annual premium on their homeowners insurance, and what else?" And just start, going line by line through everything to.
I should have called you. I didn't think about that as a potential.
It's a great idea.
Potential solution.
That's a great idea. So, are we not fearful that we're going to have more situations like that if the tax rate and the assessments continue to do what they're doing?
I mean, we're going to have those situations. Well, that's coinciding with rising rates. We're going to have a smaller pool of buyer borrowers as we go forward. But as we've discussed on the show, with inventory being what it is at the moment, the only thing to slow the rocket ship of value is that for there to be less people trying to buy these homes, which will put days on market longer, which will put eventually a more normal market.
But let's talk about value, because we're not talking, in this case, we're not talking about market value. We're talking about tax assessed value, which is substantially lower.
Correct, but that's
than
what I
market
talked
value.
about in the beginning of the show when we talk about whatever statistic you have over there saying that the net worth of everyone in America has virtually doubled due to the value of their homes increasing, and me saying that eventually the government is coming to get that money.
I didn't say that. I think Fannie Mae
Fannie Mae said it. I
said it.
referenced the piece of paper that you brought in sitting on the thing there.
Scott Mortgage Morris, don't get me into trouble.
No, not at all.
It's the paper he's got there.
I tend to do enough of that on my own. Thank you very much.
So this is a hot topic on the feed, and we'll get to the other topics here. Albemarle County is going to probably follow suit with an assessment or tax rate increase, as the city of Charlottesville does its tax rate increase and has that 12% assessment year over year uptick. So the question is, are we as, and I'm going to paraphrase this from her, are we as first-time home buyers just going to feel the brunt of this more so than those that already have houses or are deeper along in their lives? I mean, I hate to say the answer is yes.
No, maybe yes, maybe no yes. I mean, we have an example of my parents, right? Their tax assessment is going up. They're on a fixed income, right? Their income is not growing to just 10% inflation. So
The
they
retired demographic, fixed income retirees, are almost in the same category as the first-time home buyers.
for two reasons. What we just outlined, and also they want the same thing when they're buying. So they're competing against each other as far as product is concerned. But you're 100% right. The bookends of both sides, are feeling the impact on this.
Let's also take a step back from this and pretend that the last 2 years didn't happen. So when we were at a conventional 30-year fixed mortgage that was 4.25% in 2018, 2019, January 2019, we weren't having this conversation.
No, and I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show. The price points were not what they are today versus 2018, 2019.
Okay.
And also, devil's advocate with you, the tax exposure was not what they are today.
So I think Scott's point is,
And inflation wasn't what it is.
Now, that's
the
a bell
real issue.
that gets rung due to pumping that. I mean, that's a
giving
whole
a ton of
nother
free money to
yeah,
everybody.
that's like a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But you put that much money in the system, you're going to get the problem that exists.
And that's what Xavier Erpy was highlighting yesterday.
yeah. So when the last time the interest rates were at 5% was somewhere between 18 and 19, looking at the chart that I have in front of me, inflation at that point was zero.
Yeah, or it was less. It was 2% at the time, where
Yeah.
it was chasing. It was just under 2%.
Yeah. So when the impact of that and the CPI on my parents and on the first-time home buyer is impactful, right, on that end of it. But at that point in time when we were in 2018 and 19, you were still making deals. I was still selling houses. I mean, the market was moving along. I think to follow up on what Jerry just said, this conversation we're having about tax rate increase happens every year.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just this year, because of the 2 years that you want us to forget about,
And
has impacted that.
Well,
Absolutely.
and, go ahead, Scott.
Well, and the other side of that also is, as long as we don't get governments paying independents to come through, which they're going to have to do, but as long as it doesn't get absurd, like during just like the 08 time frame where you saw some of these assessments doubling in value, that's when you go and you, as a collective group of humans, to your local governance and say, whoa, you're gonna pay for another round of this and get an average, because there's no way that these properties just.
And that's what we're trying to do here.
Is Neil watching?
I mean, we have one of the loudest voices we have with this network. Neil Williamson, if you're watching, please give us a poke or let us know. And to Scott's point, historically, African-American community, 10th and Page in the city of Charlottesville, assessments jumped 25% year over year. And a lot of the families in 10th and Page are fixed budgeted. And that is a byproduct, and we love Dairy Market, love Dairy Central, love them.
Sure.
But Dairy Market and Dairy Central certainly influence a 25% assessment
100%, but
uptick.
this goes back to like my age-old, like this is, and I don't want to go too far down this view on government of let me give you a big hug while I stab you in the back. Like they say all the right things, but ultimately, this is.
The reason why, part of something so everybody can understand, there's a reason why I asked for a shout out to Neil, because I've had a chance to actually
I'll tag him
fact
right
check
now.
this number, and Neil will know. It's much like the tax assessment, so just to get this out there, the tax assessment required by the state is much like the comprehensive plan. I think you have to do it every 5 years. So some jurisdictions, like our jurisdiction, Fluvanna County, didn't do it for years. So what happened was the market has changed substantially in 5 years. So what it was 5 years ago, and what it was now, is a huge jump. So most jurisdictions now are going into this yearly or bi-yearly thing, but for quite a while it was every 5 years. So it was kind of didn't hit you until a 5-year period of time. And I may be wrong. It may be longer than 5 years. It may be less than 5 years. But some jurisdictions don't do this every year.
Well, how about this from Spencer? And Paul McCarter, we'll get to your comment here in a matter of moments, of Avenue Realty. Very free market, small government. Paul, would you characterize yourself as libertarian-esque? Let us know what your thoughts are on that. But Spencer says this. Maybe you guys are just looking at it the wrong way. Increased assessments means people have more worth, means the jurisdiction has more money to run, means the economy is strong in Charlottesville. Why not look at it that way?
So all that is absolutely true, right? And
We're just fearful
For
of
a
the
certain,
gentrification.
it's true for a certain part of the population.
Exactly.
but it's
Exactly.
important to understand.
It's true if we don't want diversity in wealth and racial diversity.
Yeah, 100%. It's true if you're okay going, all these things that we say and do to help certain parts of the community only matter when we're saying them, not through our actual actions and how much we charge them to live here.
And Paul McCarter literally just said assessments and tax rates are another example of the city and county saying they want affordable housing while every decision they make increases the cost of housing.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
They're buzzwords.
Yeah, yes.
They're marketing buzzwords to win elections. He's going to say, no way, Jose, because he's been in the space for 30 years, and he literally has had successful championing efforts of affordable housing.
We were able to make it actually happen.
Yeah.
But the brain damage is a little bit more than I can afford.
The difficulty in getting that done, and then on top of that, the fractionality of
It's not scalable. It's not
yes.
scalable. It's not
So
scalable.
you're not protecting people who already have existing properties.
No.
You're creating 50 units to try to help a population of probably 20,000.
Yeah, try like 4 units.
Okay.
Instead of 50 units. Yeah. So look, we were not to make this up. This is about you and all this stuff, but
this is important topics, and we already got good content for the Sizzle Reels, and he has great ammunition and good stuff to say that I think is like he just said, Paul just said, libertarian leading independent. I mean, he is like that, and I'm like that. It's like the party of common sense.
yeah.
Get out of our own way. Is that right?
Yes, but I try not to go too far down that road.
Yeah.
We're running businesses, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and never point a finger at somebody else. We try to figure out a solution at that. So to talk about solutions, we were able with the land trust for $180,000 to put 9 families in, produce $2.2 million, and that was only because of relationships. It was only because I was able to put Albemarle County in a room, Land Trust in a room, Stanley Martin in a room, and say, how are we going to do this? And everybody ponied up to make it happen. So it's 9, it's not 900, right? Which is what is needed. It can be done, but as the conversation I had with 2 city councils yesterday, turn my red tape into green tape, and we can get this happening. 2 years on an awning is wrong, right?
That
is wrong.
Walk out the Mackin building, and when you head to that, did you drive the big truck or the gas efficient?
The gas efficient car.
Okay, the gas efficient car. When you walk to the gas efficient car, look at the new awning. to 25 months. City of Charlottesville, downtown.
Hey, that and signage are like the two
Freaking
things that I cannot understand.
And to go back
Did you have to go through the architectural review board and
Historic district,
Yep.
downtown, changing the streetscape.
2 years. Not that you shouldn't have to do all that, from my perspective, but that's a couple of month review, not a 24-month review.
And the interesting thing is, it's like, and you and I were talking about this with the Irpies yesterday, like the awning has a cost, and that cost 2 years ago versus that cost today is very different because of cost of goods going up, inflation.
labor?
Labor, yeah, goods,
And you
labor.
didn't calculate your time into that.
Right. And the awning also has a cost with architects spending the time at hourly rates that are justified their experience,
Sure.
but hourly rates nevertheless of going through the bureaucratic process that made it even more expensive.
So this $800 yesterday, we had 8 people working on this for 4 hours yesterday. 8 different people, from lawyers to all kinds across the board. Do you think it cost us more than $800 to get ahead and manage that? It sure as hell did.
Every time.
So, just because of that, and I think at the back end of it, it's going to be a snafu that I think somebody in Albemarle County misquoted the assessed value, which I'm going to fight after we close, because if we don't close it, this poor family will be homeless if I don't sign a piece of paper at 12:30 today to go ahead and do it. And we'll go back and fight the county, which I've already given them a heads up that it's coming, to go ahead and change this, because they just arbitrarily picked a number. Just arbitrarily picked a number.
Well, is it because the assessment office is so...
So this is new construction, so they arbitrarily picked a number.
Okay.
Last year,
They don't use comps for that?
last year it was a lot, now it's a home. Historically, the way this works, and I think we'll win this, historically, whatever the contract price is, that's usually what they set the tax assessed value in new construction. That's how it's supposed to work.
So a lot of times it comes in below that. So one of the things that I typically do is I will coach borrowers that, look, I'm going to set this at the contract price, but I'm going to discuss with title as well and kind of get a view on some other like properties. And a lot of times it's 80% of contract price.
So these are
where we
leasehold
end up.
purchases, right? So
Yep.
this is a very unique
No,
product.
I understand. In fact, I sent all of someone else's information over for one of the ones on Spring Hill to help them get that done.
Thank you. And that means you're a class act guy.
Yeah, his class.
But that's what happened. The loan officer on the other side on this, which is Fulton Bank, who's doing this portfolio money from that, set the tax assessed value based on the purchase price. It came out substantially higher.
All right, that is crazy.
Right, so that's the problem. That's the fight. But we're all ponying up 10 grand to make this thing work, and then we have to go back and fight the county for it.
This comment from Nicholas: it's great to have the value of a home go up. It's investing. It's a hedge. But the problem is that the taxation on that asset is what drives people out. It would create generational wealth for minorities if the government didn't tax those properties. That's the crux of the issue.
Hey, Nicholas, the Italian cookies did not make it home. I ate them on the way home.
Yeah, they were delicious. They were absolutely delicious. Thoughts on that topic?
I think that's what we've been getting at from the moment it came up. That's what gentrifies neighborhoods, or at least that's the beginning.
How about this from Avenue Realty's Paul McCarter? A few units being affordable by removing some of the ownership of the property is not addressing affordable housing. How about a neighborhood having to have 25% green space, which means the other lots have to be more expensive to offset 25% being dormant? Or VDOT not taking on new roads, which forces HOA to collect for them, which count as part of the mortgage payment. That means newer neighborhoods have to pay for their own roads, plus taxes for all the other old neighborhood roads.
So, Paul,
it makes newer neighborhoods cost more, even if they are the same price.
So, Paul, when I speak about turning red tape into green tape, it's all these things.
Yeah.
that need to be looked
Or
at.
VDOT not allowing the current, having to upgrade the entrance of a road to adjust for two lots for the current standard, so you're turning a project, you're adding $25,000 to $50,000 for an entrance into something that, there's tons of these little minutia things to meet an existing government standard that
So
may
let's
or may
be a
not
little
need to be.
specific. We're talking about Albemarle and Charlottesville, but when you start going out to Augusta County and Buckingham County, and Fulvan is kind of changing its mindset a little bit on things like this by the rejection of a couple of developments. I think there's another one's going to get rejected tonight at the Board of Supervisors. These outlining counties where the path is a little easier and the red tape isn't so much there, that is going to probably drive some of the development out that way, as long as they've got that infrastructure, which I'm not talking about roads, I'm talking about
Schools.
Well, I'm really talking about is Wi-Fi, broadband, excuse me, on that end of it.
Well, that's in a whole nother, and I guess my whole reference to schools is a whole nother example of where these costs come back in the form of taxes. Because you put more people somewhere, there's got to be the
Infrastructure to accommodate.
to support it. Yeah, 100%.
And
But I read a statistic which I didn't bring with it. The average family of children are decreasing year over year, and I'm holding Nelson County.
Because nobody can afford to have kids.
right. That's exactly what it
I
is.
can tell you, in the '80s, nobody could afford to have kids too.
I had a whole conversation with Tina Smith about that.
I mean, how many kids did your mom have?
5.
Right.
The answer is we started with you and we figured we screwed it up. We just keep on going until we got it right. And after 5, they said, yeah.
Is Scott Morris having any more kids?
No, sir.
Dr. Morris?
No, we're good. We are.
It's got 3.
It's 3, right?
Yeah,
A
it's
twin,
three.
and
It's got
God
3.
bless you.
Got 1. Yeah, God bless you. 3 under 5?
Yeah, the girls will turn 4 this summer, and
Freaking
Colton will be
superstars.
too.
But
Okay.
Nelson County's student population is continuing to decrease.
Well, what do you attribute that to? I have some ideas on that.
It's my age.
Yeah, retirees moving into
It's
Nelson.
it's the average age. So there's a flip side to that, right? So this whole conversation we had with Chris Fairchild and Tony O'Brien and about a project that got rejected that was going to provide housing at the 250, 350 point, which more than likely would have brought in families, right? Is now going to be 50, 75, 100, depending on the growth of the project. By right of 400 to 500,000. Guess what they're going to be? They're going to be me. They're going to be, retirees. I mean, it's happened out there. The Island Hill, 90% of the sales out there are all retirees. So that, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but there's going to be a decreasing of children in the school system. And I'm sure somebody who's way smarter than me is projecting that out.
And I'm curious, as the school population decreases in public schools, they get less funding from the state.
Well, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and as they get less funding for the state, I wonder how that's going to impact those school systems.
Well, that's
like Nelson.
Well, but
And then are you going to see the kids from resource families in Nelson, as the schools get less funding from the state, start going to St. Anne's?
So the great thing about
Common.
Nelson County and Jesse Rutherford, and if you can tag him, he likes it when we talk about him.
He does?
He does.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. But the good thing about that is it has an excess revenue because it's pulling in a certain amount of revenue, so it's decreasing its number from the state. So Ned Galloway tried to explain this the other day. It's based on student population, and the population of the county is the amount of money that it comes from the state, and it's anywhere between 60 to 80% depending on the total budget. Nelson County is fortunate because Jesse told us this. It's moving money from an account that it has to fund the shortfall. It has that ability to do that.
This question is going to be a tough one to answer. Any idea what the ratio of buyers versus sellers would be? And specifically, well, let me backtrack. Current homeowners that are being priced out of the market due to inflation and tax increases. Any idea or where we could find the data of how many this families this applies to?
I don't know if I would have access to that data, would you?
I have no idea.
Yeah, where would that data come from? How would we know who is being forced to sell their home? I mean, I guess you
Forced
can
to
find,
sell their home? Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, that can't afford it. I guess you can find the data associated with the tax relief programs that Charlottesville has, but I don't know if that's public record.
Well, I think it's public record because you can do a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request.
So someone can FOIA City of
Yeah,
Charlottesville and say this many homes and these are the addresses
Yeah,
that
yeah.
got tax relief?
Yeah, so I actually looked that up because that was an avenue I was working for this client yesterday to do that. The Albemarle County, I think, on the tax relief program, did somewhere around 240, 250 folks. They actually have that data. I saw it yesterday. Interesting thing, though, you have to be 65, right?
Jesse's watching now. Hello, Jesse Rutherford.
Hey, Jesse Rutherford. We're talking about you.
He said, what did I do?
What did I do?
Supervisor, Nelson County.
Yeah.
So, question, because that is a complicated how you would actually get there. What is the, how many people, you're in Fluvanna, what's the current population?
27,000. I was literally looking that up this morning
Okay.
I'm going to attend a board meeting and talk about this.
So, they just built a new high school.
$20 million worth of water. That we don't have any water yet.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Is there anybody in the feed who could chime into like what the population, what the student population is at the high school is now? So I graduated in 1997. My graduating class was 140 people. I would be curious to know what the class size is now if we're going through a continuous 20 plus year growth rate, like where that is, if we feel like the future population there or in these areas may be declining.
Yeah.
I would think the future population of kids in public schools in Fluvanna is going to go up.
Okay.
And the reason I would think that is because Charlottesville and Albemarle County has gotten so expensive for young families to buy that they flocked and flooded Lake Monticello and
So
purchased those.
do we think with the lack of Charlottesville wanting density that Charlottesville schools will continue to decline?
That's a
Well,
hell of a
we don't know if
topic
it's
right there.
declining or not. And
It's a
somebody
great question.
somebody
That's a
with
great
quick
question.
fingers can get on the school board's websites and kind of take a look at some, because all that is public information. That's all out there.
But, and to your stab question or comment earlier, so there has been a
St.
St.
Anne's
Anne's
Got it.
we're not stabbing people. That's not nice.
Or the Covenant School or any of them.
Yeah, or
Well,
any
we
of
are
them.
Marines, so I got a little worried there.
Woodbury.
Yeah.
So there has been a big growth in talented student athletes leaving local county to go to Fork Union, Stab. Some of these higher profile
Woodbury, for sure.
for a long time.
For sure.
To the point where, so my dad's been, he coached football and participates in officiating track events for the last 40 years. It's been a topic of conversation between he and I about the talent pool, why certain small localities have a difficult time, and it's because if the most talent is no longer focused there at the school, they're going to private institutions.
Well,
The price point of the homes drive that a little bit.
well,
So-
and Jamie Turner, Woodbury Forest's finest alum, watching the program right now. He likes to rep the pep on the feed, and he loves when I make that comment. And he's getting a chuckle right now at his home in Culpeper when I say rep the pep. You get a financial tuition break if you're
Yeah.
a high-performing athlete. And why wouldn't you, if you're a high-performing athlete, go to a school that has
100%.
fantastic amenities athletically?
Yes, and I'm not criticizing that. I'm just stating that is already something that's happening on a certain level, which certainly isn't, driving the, it certainly isn't helping the local schools.
I mean, that's like the gentrification of high school athletics.
It is. That's
Which is crazy if you think
it
about
is.
it.
So Fluvanna County, 39 homes are on the market. That's both Lake Monticello and around. The median list price is $391, $392, $391,910. Let's call it $392.
And do you think 24 months ago we were at 280?
So I'm looking at what's available under $330 right now, and I'm about $8, and that's in the whole county.
Michael Buchensky, First Heritage Mortgages, Michael Buchensky has this for Scott. I'm coaching the Covenant JV girls basketball team tonight against Stab, so I can report back tomorrow on the talent.
You'll know.
Buchetsky loves basketball, and he's going to have the clipboard on the sidelines in the junior varsity basketball game tonight.
Nice.
We love when you watch the program right there. Keith, please finish your thought. I didn't mean to interrupt
No.
you there.
You're good. While you guys are talking, I'm just digging through all these spreadsheets that I printed this morning, and I was just looking at Fluvanna County, and like I said, the median sales price, list price at the moment right now is.
Well, and he's a good example because I believe that he's in the Western District, and from his comment, it looks like they're at the Covenant School.
Yeah.
And another intriguing aspect of this, I think, to Scott's point, what also expedited that was how the public schools responded to the pandemic, and how some of the public schools didn't have the in-person class where the private schools did.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of the parents were like, "We want the learning setting of pre-pandemic times."
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who coaches basketball actually out in Buckingham, and it's been an ongoing battle with trying to get back to what his opinion, or what, a lot of people's opinions of things should be, compared to what some of the local governance, and this is, nationwide, have done. The Super Bowl was a great example. I'm not going to keep going down that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Jamie Turner, to Scott's point, Woodbury Forest, at lunch at Woodbury, it was not uncommon to see Mike London, Nick Saban, David Shaw around grounds at Woodbury Forest.
Yeah, recruiting.
I mean, that's pretty. I mean, those are heavy hitters right there, walking the grounds of Woodbury. And it's no secret. Jamie Turner, can you offer some perspective here? I think the all-in yearly tuition at Woodbury is like, is it north of $40K for boarders?
I think it's 35.
35? Yeah, so in the ballpark for boarders?
I think.
Yeah, so 35. Jamie, if you can offer any insight into that, maybe of how that's gone up. So, I mean, that is the gentrification of public schools, sports, right there. That's a hell of a topic.
Yeah.
To cover on the show. Keith, multiple folks watched yesterday's show that are asking, did you save the client deal?
Yeah, we saved it.
Yeah.
I'm literally finishing it up as we speak right now. We saved it. It was a matter of bringing an extra 10 grand to the table, but we found it and we were able to make it happen. So.
This question for Scott. How do you factor in tax rate increases on mortgage applications that may or may not close at the time of the tax rate increase decision?
I'm going to use whatever is existing and talk to the borrowers about the difference, because I can't. Title's going to come up with a number from the county, and I'm not going to have them paying something more, but I will let them know, hey, be on the lookout that, there are assessments that are going to affect your mortgage payment in the future. And it's not your principal and interest that are increasing, but also keep an eye out in case your home insurance goes up. And if it does, then contact me and we'll get you in touch with an agent who can get you, another look at another policy.
So that's a great point to make. Most people do not know that you can change your insurance company midway through a life of a loan, right?
Yeah.
I've had this conversation 100 times with folks that, well, I can't change it. I said, no, you can. Let's go out and shop it. Here's a trusted advisor. Let's go out and shop it and save yourself $100 a month or $50 a month. And that's what you have to do, and you have to get a little creative on that. And maybe you have to increase your deductible or whatever it is to kind of get you there.
Are you ready for a number that's going to scare the hell out of you?
I mean,
The Woodbury number?
Okay. Yeah.
60 grand.
This is a reflection of waiting lists and supply and demand in COVID. This is from Jamie Turner, graduate of Woodbury Forest. He says, when I was there, it was $35K. And then he just checked the current tuition at Woodbury Forest, $62,200 a year. Yeah. And he responds, may have to send my kids to the PEP. That's what he says, literally. Yeah. 62,000, and then he's including a link. Jamie Turner, you're making us better today, like you always do. I love the folks.
Hey,
that
if
watch
he's pulling that up,
send me the link.
What is what's the? There's an elementary school.
Good night. The true cost. Here's the link. Thank you, Jamie Turner. The true cost, and then finish your thought. The true cost to send a boy through Woodbury for a year is calculated at approximately $88,245. Our current tuition, room, and board is $62,200. That means that even families who pay full tuition receive a subsidy of almost $26,100 annually toward their son's education. That's a little smoke and mirrors right there.
Sure.
That's a little smoke.
Well, they also have.
Did you hear that? That's called brand management right there.
I don't know, whoever wrote that needs to get a real estate license.
Keith, that was funny.
My brain's not working at the moment, but what's
Every once in a while, I come
That
up
was
with it.
hilarious.
what's a college that, so they've got the investment that they hold, like their big pool of money, their
Endowment?
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
endowment at Woodbury is like off the charts. Like they could essentially pay for everyone to go without tuition for the rest
That's the
of
same
time.
thing. I heard a number at one point in time. It's the same thing with
Crazy.
UVA. I
Yeah.
mean, they can send people to school for like a millennial. And
So I'm
millennia.
sure there actually is some truth to that, given the
Yeah.
what they actually pay for.
What is the
So
Jamie,
here's
can
the
you tell us
takeaway from
endowment?
that. Those little girls and guys you have, do you think it's expensive now?
Oh no,
That's his point.
I'm telling you, the kids. Why do we have a shrinking? Because people
Because of
can't.
that.
Yeah, or Grimes Elementary, and I'm not even looking up what Grimes. I was trying to think of the name of it at first, but I know it's like 20 G a year for elementary school. Like what that to me is.
Well,
bonkers.
I'm glad that I just bounce little grandbabies on my knees and hand them back and move on, because then you got weddings, by the way.
Yeah.
that you got to pay for.
Multiple comments. This from Coach Michael Buchensky. That's why settlement agents collect the tax escrow account with a few months surplus in case of overage or additional tax fees at a later date. And he also says, pretty sure that Woodbury tuition is more than UVA. College education is basically 4-year vacation at this point, unless the students know exactly what they want to do. Go into vocational training. No millennials will know how to wire a home. So an electrician or tradesman, for example, will make a mint in the future. And we talk about
Well,
that.
that's
He's right.
my whole thing all the time. Are you learning something that you can effectively turn as a tool into a profit in the future? Like, are you doing something that,
So I'm working on a show with that with a couple folks from Ridge Schuyler from I can get this out, Piedmont Community College, to come in here and talk about that. Why are we not doing more of this stuff? And
Because of I hate to say this, because of the stigma. Because the American dream has been so like manipulated. And
well, you were told you have to go to
Yeah, because of that. It's like the college is.
luckily,
not
I
like a
was
white picket fence.
luckily I was someone who didn't like doing anything he was told to do. So that was really what kept me out of it.
And now
yeah,
you're,
sure. You joined the Marine Corps.
well, and now you're crushing it. And now the dude is crushing
Yeah.
it.
So if you take a look at certain trades and certain folks, and we'll dig this up for a future show.
They crush it.
Substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
Substantial amount of money.
And not only that,
I know some very successful plumbers, to be just 100%.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Randy Smith, who you brought on the show, is
Yeah.
watching the program right now.
What up, Randy?
Tennis coach extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Fantastic realtor that lives in downtown Culpeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
True cost for Woodbury Forest on their website, he says, is $88K. Multiple people are blown away by this amount. Multiple people blown away. I would love to know what's in that endowment, Jamie. If you have any access or reach to that, JT, I would love to know that. The UVA endowment is 17 to 20 million. 17 to 20 billion.
Billion with a
Billion
B.
with
Yeah,
a B.
yeah.
Yeah, with a B.
Way more than these 10 fingers could count.
Yeah. I wonder what Woodbury's is.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Do you think it's north?
I bet it's got a B.
You think that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
If we put the over under at 1 billion, you're taking the over.
Yeah.
Are you on that?
Mr. Smith isn't smart enough to figure this one out, so I'm leaving it alone. It's a big number, and whoever can afford it, God bless them, and I'm glad that they can do it. But that's a lot of money.
It's a great school too. Anyone that knows that answer, we would certainly love to have it. This question that has come in is for Keith, I would imagine. If the future land use map does get approved, like it's on track to get approved, how does he think that's going to increase the budget and the money that comes into the budget from the additional density?
Yeah, so I think that's what they're trying to figure out. So the land use map has been approved. It is part of the comprehensive plan. As everybody knows, what they're now going through is the zoning portion of it, and the zoning, and I don't want to geek out too much on it, but the zoning text amendment on it, and what this is all actually going to look at from a regulatory perspective on the end of it. Look, it's a double-edged sword, right? So if we're able to increase density, expenses will go up. That's just the way life is. But, somebody needs to turn an ROI on it, and hopefully that's what's going to happen, return on investment, and they're going to start looking at that. I know this much in the conversation I had with my pop over the weekend, my mom and pop on the weekend. If nothing happens, the costs are going to go up. And that's what they were talking about, right? Their income is not increasing enough for the expenses between inflation, transitory or not. I think transitory is a BS word at the moment.
14 months.
That's apparently 14 months is transitory. The taxes are going up, HOA dues are going up, so they're slowly not being able to afford where they're at. That's going to go up if there's more density or not. Did I do a decent job?
I thought you did a very good job. And as we identified yesterday, 7% uptick in first years at UVA in the class of 2026. 7% additional more students for the class of 2026 versus 2025.
I'm curious.
Where are they going to live?
Right? Wasn't it already tight housing to begin with?
But is that the uptick of applications, or are they increasing the student population?
Or are they doing some sort of, is this actually students that are living at the university, or is this something where they're allowing some sort of online
Hybrid
enrollment
kind of
and
thing,
but taking the same amount of money and for the name?
I would imagine that they're going to try to put as many on grounds as possible for the profit centers that come with being on grounds.
Yeah.
But the logical question is, Scott identified, is where 7% additional students going to live, and how does that impact the housing market?
It will.
Right.
It will, yeah.
Not only rental, but home ownership.
So I
and
think,
not only city of Charlottesville, but surrounding counties, because it's all tied together.
well, we've been talking about that forever. You can't talk Charlottesville without talking Fluvanna. You can't talk Fluvanna without talking Greene. We're all interconnected
Right.
in this region. But so I think UVA students are somewhere between 26 and 27,000, if I remember the math right.
Yeah.
So they're increasing that by 7%, is what we're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot.
I thought the applications got increased by 7%. I misunderstood you. That's a big number.
Yeah, so they're cracking 30,000.
That's massive.
People.
UVA, it's going to be an interesting next calendar year and 4 years after here in our ecosystem. Any closing thoughts, Scott Morris? Scott Morris is excellent in this setting, per usual.
It's the haircut.
Closing thoughts. Just if you're out there, and so I've seen a lot of some brokerages further north kind of doing some preparation for their people over inventory and how are things going to go, and don't worry. I think don't worry is the key. People are going to continue to do people things, and if you're out there and you're grinding, go out, make good decisions, make your phone calls, talk to people, do what you need to do to put as many listings into your arena as possible. If you've got buyers, give me a call, and I'm happy to help you. Message me on Facebook. I'm only a click away.
Very nice.
Or a phone call.
Or a phone call. Smoke signal if you're very creative.
Paul Hendricks, Facebook message. Paul Hendricks, you jumping, you're making us better here. I love you, Paul Hendricks. Woodbury Endowment is listed at roughly $450 million.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Less than I thought. Still a lot of
So
money.
you took the under, didn't you?
No, I didn't make a call. I just put the over-under at $1 billion.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and I got dots coming in here on Facebook message, so he's about to add. Phillips Andover, which is another private school, is $1.1 billion.
Holy smokes.
He says. Wow. Private schools. I mean, Woodbury's $450 million endowment is massive.
Yeah.
I wonder what Stabs is.
I bet you'll get a couple dots here and with an answer on it.
Have you guys seen St. Anne's primary campus over there off Ivy Road?
I have not.
Dude, it's like a college.
It is. It's a campus.
It's a campus.
It's a campus.
It is like
For
a college.
but little kids don't need all that, man.
It's like a college. I mean,
Like, they don't know.
they don't exactly. They have no perspective.
Yeah.
They don't know. They just think that's what it is.
It's strictly to, and anyways, that's
to
all.
drive admissions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a business. Thank you, Paul, on that. We appreciate that. Keith, any closing thoughts?
No, again, today, I think like we did on Monday, we just had a couple of short topics. What we do more than several times a week, constantly amazes me on our viewers and our listeners, how they make me better, that's for sure. And I get asked all the time, why do I do this for as often as I do a week? And it makes me better at my job. So thank you.
Hear that, Yona? It makes him better at his job.
Thanks, Scott. I was really trying to close the deal here, and thank you, brother. One Marine to another. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I know what that thank you means.
For those that don't know. Jamie Turner says, so this is the beautiful thing about the show. We have multiple conversations happening here on across Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and Facebook Messenger, all on the same thing. Jamie says, I remember when I was there in 2014, it was about 300 million. He'll have to dig through his notes from our last advisory council meeting, but I know it's increased significantly. And Paul just answered Jamie's question by saying the endowment is 450 million, which Paul has found online. So from 2014 to now, that's 8 years, the endowment has gone up 50%.
Well, it's also a testament to
their fundraising capacity
and their investment portfolios.
Yeah,
well,
that's true. There you go.
Plus, graduates going through university that are, giving money back and all that great stuff.
And Bill says future land use map will inflate land values and higher sell prices will increase taxes along with the increase in the rate. You can see this already in property sales and higher density proposed areas.
I had a conversation with 2 city councils about that yesterday. So.
All right, gentlemen, you guys are fantastic. This is Real Talk on a Wednesday presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Mortgage Morris.
What was what we
Gallivanting.
The gallivanting Scott.
I got to write that down because I've got Scott Mortgage Morris, but we have to do the gallivanting.
Yeah, I like it.
He's an A+.
We're gonna get to a full English title by the time
I know, dude. It's gonna be
Sir, gallivanting.
Keith is the distinguished gentleman, Keith Smith. Judah Whitcower is our director. My name is Jerry Miller. We have the doctors behind the Urgency of Normal Toolkit tomorrow, and Jeff Vergalis, Dr. Jeff Vergalis, and Dr. Elizabeth Holland on the program, Dr. Eliza Holland tomorrow, as they make their medical and scientific push to return schools back to normal in a maskless setting. Those 2 doctors who work for the University of Virginia on the show at 12:30 to talk about this topic that is near and dear to all our hearts as parents. This is Real Talk. Thank you kindly for joining us. Take care.